Since the budget and the government's announcement that they are going to get rid of the inheritance tax exemption for farmers, I have been inundated on social media by people accusing farmers of not paying their tax. And quite frankly, it's incredibly insulting. Often we lose money because everything is against us. And right now, there's a perfect storm. Farmers don't work Monday to Friday, 9 till 5. Farmers work 7 days a week. Often we have to work through the night. And we are working for very little money. And we have to buy a lot of very, very expensive machinery and outputs, which are thousands of pounds. We employ people as well. So we are contributing to the economy massively and feeding people. And to be told that we are conning out the country of tax is incredibly inflammatory. The agreement on inheritance tax exemption has ensured that when we're working for nothing, largely, it means that we're in forced saving for our generations to look after the farm. And that's how it works. So it's like you working really, really hard, saving all of your money for your kids, and then the government coming along and smashing your piggy bank because you've got to smash the piggy bank to pay the inheritance tax. And that is why we, as farmers, are so upset, and particularly so because Keir Starmer came to the NFU conference.
Today seems to bring a new existential risk to British farming. Losing a farm is not like losing any other business. It can't come back. That's why the lack of urgency from the government, the lack of attention to detail, the lack of long-term planning, it's not on. You deserve better than
that. Most farms would have to sell land to pay the inheritance tax. If the farm is not really huge, then it becomes unviable to farm because it won't be big enough if you had to sell most of it to pay the bill. Because of Brexit, we don't have an automatic right to food from the EU. Less is coming here from the EU. Our imports of food are down by 27% since Brexit. And the world, I don't know if you've noticed, is in chaos. If we are relying on Donald Trump to feed us, he might say yes one week and no the following week. So never before have you been dependent on us to feed you. And yet you think that we should stop farming and pay inheritance tax.
Farmers, and I would just say to Gareth, I appreciate I'm not going to win him over on this programme, but do judge us by our actions, judge us by how you feel in 5 years' time.
Well, Gareth, do you want to respond?
I'm judging you by your actions already, with the promises that came and what you've delivered. This is going to be the last nail in the agricultural coffin. This country is going to need farmers once, twice or 3 times every day. Food security should be at the top. You know, you should be looking at investing into agriculture to build the better Britain on our bellies, making sure the next generation has healthy, nutritional food. But what you're doing is you're going to push people out to the industry. And my family's been on this land for 375 years. It breaks my heart to think that I could be the last generation here. I want to pass this down to my boys and make sure that they can make a living. Right. You're taking that away from me,
Gareth,
and away from thousands of farmers in the United Kingdom.
Before I get Lisa to respond on that final point, particularly shame on you, Gareth, how much support, is there widespread support for this strike that you are joining?
Unbelievable, and it's not just widespread. I've got quite a big social media following, and a lot of people have been on board this morning, and a lot of the general public know there's going to be food inflations around the corner, and the poorer people, the people that Labour should be protecting, are the ones that won't be able to afford the food, because we're going to have to put a 20% hike on our food.
All right, well, let me get...
They have to listen. Yes. They have to listen for once to the people that are on the coalface, Don't do what Margaret Thatcher did to the miners. Protect your farmers going forward. We need you to steer our agricultural sector for food security, to make sure we can feed the poorer people in our society.
All right, Gareth, let me let Lisa...
Too late.
Right, well, I mean, that is a pretty impassioned plea to you there, and shame on you.
It absolutely is. And Gareth, can I just say to you that, first of all, we did introduce a funding in the budget that is the biggest amount of funding ever committed by government for food security and nature, which we think will help significantly. But second of all, I would just say this, that those comments that you alluded to that were made by somebody who was last a Labour advisor when I was a teenager, I think are absolutely abhorrent. I come from a mining community. The damage that Margaret Thatcher did to our community, willfully and vindictively inflicted on us, we're still dealing with today. We would never seek to visit that on anybody. This is about trying to get our country back on track. We have inherited a difficult situation. You've just heard the opposition spokesperson telling you that he could find £8 billion worth of savings, but nowhere near the £22 billion black hole that we've inherited just in this year alone. We've got to start turning that around. We've got to do it in order to support people like you, and we will listen and we will work with you. Right, Andrew, I mean, is it true on principle? Why should and why is farming exempt in this way from inheritance tax, or has been?
Because food security is so vitally important to this country and to our future. And, you know, the reason that there were exemptions around farms and farming was because of the centrally important role that that sector plays in the life of our nation. And I had a meeting with farmers in my very rural constituency just last Friday, and Gareth made the case far more eloquently than I could about the actual impact of these decisions and the cumulative impact of not just the changes to agricultural property relief, but also national insurance increases and everything else that's coming down the line as well, being squeezed by the supermarkets as farmers have been for far too long, energy prices out of control. A few years ago, fertiliser prices through the roof, all of the pressures being faced by the agricultural sector. The cumulative impact is becoming very difficult for farmers to deal with, but it's the sense of betrayal, because it's the sense that Keir Starmer went to the NFU conference last year and made a pledge that he would support family farms. The DEFRA secretary said there would be no change to agricultural property. He literally said there will be no change, and there has now been a significant change. And Lisa talks about getting young people into farming. This is going to prevent the next generation of farmers actually getting into farming, because there's going to be a reluctance to pass down the family farm to that next generation. And young people are not enough young people are getting into the sector as it is right now. So I really do worry about what this will mean in the round for the agricultural sector, for farming, and for our food security.
Well, and we've heard very much from Gareth. A final question to you, Gareth. Will your family farm be impacted by the changes on inheritance tax? We heard Lisa and Andy echoing the government's line that actually farms under £3 million will be exempted. So will it affect yours?
Yes, and I think you've got to take into consideration everything that we own. This is a working landscape. Our houses, everything that surrounds us is part of our businesses. My father's 88 and he still works 7 days a week. He's never had the passport. He's never been on holiday. He's been here to feed people affordably. That's why there wasn't inheritance tax on this land, so we could feed the nation affordably. That's what you want to remember. And don't forget, never bite the hand that feeds you, because I believe that the Labour government have woken a sleeping giant, and they shouldn't do that. They should be working with us. There's ways and means we can have these taxes, but the people that are producing the food and feeding you, they are not the ones you should be hammering.
Gareth, you've been very clear. Gareth Wynne-Jones there in North.
It's terrible news, to be honest, because without sounding flippant, £1 million of farmland these days, it's 100 acres. You can't. People who have 100 acres have a full-time job. So anything over that, the add on 20%, and also we forget the capital gains tax as well on top of that, as well as high interest rates to borrow against that. It's unviable. It's not possible. I mean, I'm a seventh generation farmer on this farm I'm at. We've been here since 1703, and we hand it down. It's what we do. We're not sitting on this huge asset to be able to then sell it to live the life of Riley. We're doing this to produce food that keeps you alive. I mean, I don't know how hard that is to understand for people in Westminster. but we're producing something that we don't have to be rely on from another country. We're doing it ourselves. I mean, we learned from the energy crisis, don't rely on other countries to supply necessities to keep us going. And this is food we're talking about. People need us. I mean, it's the same old story, and I hate repeating it. You know, it's, oh, you need farmer 3 times a day. Well, it's true. Nobody needs anybody more in the UK than we need a farmer. Like, I don't know how hard it is for people to commute that. I mean, are they making these decisions while they're sitting, tucking into their porridge in the morning or the sandwiches for lunch? I don't understand. They're killing the hand that feeds them, literally.
The NFU says the National Farmers Union says it's going to organise a big protest in London. Is that something you'd take part in?
Oh, 100%. I mean, this is like, we can't fathom how close this is to D-Day for agriculture. This is monumental, and I'm absolutely amazed. This shows how big this is. That all the crises we've gone through, the National Farmers Unions have never really spoken up. They don't like, but the fact that they have already organised a march in London just shows you how monumental this is. I mean, it's terrible. You look at the suicide figures in agriculture with mental health, they are staggering. Now, there was a report of a farmer who had taken his own life before the budget was released because of the hysteria and the noise that came out about the potential it might happen to his family farm. I mean, it is a very, very lonely place to work. You know, I have a young son, and my wife last weekend said that on the Saturday, that's the first time I spent breakfast and lunch with him since the 1st of November when he was born.
Hello, beautiful.